A very good afternoon to you, wherever you are in the world. Very warm welcome. Connect, communicate, collaborate. Weekly podcast from eBusiness Connect. And if you are joining us live at the moment, or whether you're joining us on YouTube, just to let you know, today is Wednesday, the 23rd of August, 2023. My name is Sedley Adams. I'm from the UK consultancy eBusiness Connect UK here in London. And as we are every other week, this week we're joined by Teresa B. Cyrus from Track Creations 4E in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yes, indeed. And just a little bit about what it is that we do at eBusiness Connect UK. We are a Microsoft 365 consultancy based in London, and we specialize in the deployment, support, administration, and user coaching for the collaboration tools in Microsoft 365. So for most of you out there, that will include things such as Microsoft Teams and SharePoint, Outlook, of course, OneDrive, Word, PowerPoint, the admin centers for the background, whether you're working on your own or if you have an IT team, and of course, Microsoft Entra, formerly Azure Active Directory. Teresa has been in the Microsoft space for decades. She's extremely good at what she does. And most importantly for me, she's fun. She always looks for the things that I don't see. Kind of good way of looking at the world. I like that. How are you doing, Teresa?
I'm doing good. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday to you too, young lady. Yes, absolutely. And I understand that today we're going to be riding the waves with Microsoft Planner.
Yes, I'm going to just give, a very high level overview. Planner has so many different, features that I'm going to just focus on the basic and some of the core features today.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So yes, indeed, welcome to Connect, Communicate, Collaborate, the weekly 365 tutorial or podcast. And today's, as I say, Wednesday, the 23rd of August, 2023. So hi, Teresa. We can see you now.
Hello.
So yeah, you and the other, but not necessarily better half, are both doing well.
We're enjoying the summer.
What drew you to Planner for this week? I mean, we talk about all kinds of stuff. What was it that made you go, Planner?
So think about the last 2 or 3 weeks we've been together, right? We talked about Outlook. We covered, the To-Do app, and Outlook seamlessly integrates with Planner as well. It's another task management tool, in the Outlook ecosystem. So thought that, hey, might as well go ahead and cover this off as well, right?
Sounds good to me. Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I know that we don't have a very long session today, even though we always say that and never quite works out the way we plan. Yeah, because I
That's
always wind up,
right.
you know, getting confused about something, and we wind up arguing about something or the other, and you think I'm right and I think you're wrong. Oh, heavens. But you know what? We always come to a place where hopefully people will say, we want to talk to Teresa about this, or we want to talk to Seth, or we want to talk to both of them
That's
about
right.
how to bring this thing together, bring it together from the people's point of view. So I'm going to hand over to you yet again and say, go do your magic.
All right. And I'm going to share my screen. All right. So again, today I'm going to talk about Microsoft Planner application. Again, it is another task manager. It's a little bit more powerful than the To Do, and but not as powerful as projects. So let's go and look at what it can do. Before I get into it, let me just introduce myself a little bit. Sally kind of covered some of it already. I've been in the corporate world, over 30 something years. My specialty is process optimization through modern technology. If it's new technology, I want to be part of it. And in 2021, I started my own business because I found that I'm very passionate about training. This time around, I'm going to do it under Track Creation for E. I have a blog website. I have a YouTube channel that has all of the Microsoft 365, different features, tips, and tricks. Recently, with Microsoft Tech Community, I became the valued contributor. I go there and answer questions to people's issues and give them solutions and keeping them informed. Recently been nominated as MVP, so my fingers are crossed that that comes through within the next 90 days or so. And I'm also speak with virtual assistants. I talk about digital growth is a mindset and your profitability. So that's a little bit of information about me. So Track Creation for E's mission is we explore, experiment, and execute effectively so you can simplify your technical workday all day, every day. And that's why I will go out and think about inefficiencies. That's why I explore inefficiencies. I test and experiment with resources because at the end of the day, we want to work smarter than harder. So, what is Planner? So, it's a cloud-based task manager. Like I had talked about earlier today, it allows you to keep track of progress. Like it could be phases or in stages. You can make sure if it's multiple people, you can manage what they're up to all easily. Now, if you remember that we used to, plan and, track our parents' milestone parties or business conferences, or teachers would create back to school activities. We would do this in Excel spreadsheet. Now we can do this in the Planner application. It's more effective, it's easier to manage, and it's really good for mid-sized projects that are, let's say, 3 months or longer, and you have multiple people involved. If you remember when I covered last week about the To-Do app, the To-Do is really you're managing yourself, even though you have other people involved, but this one is more on a larger scale. So it is also integrates, with the To-Do app. You heard me keep talking about that, as well as Outlook. And I'm going to, give you some overview of that. I won't go into it in detail. So with the To-Do app, any task that you create in the planner is saved in the Assign to Me folder in the To-Do app. So it's going to be easy for you to keep track. And this doesn't matter if you have tasks from multiple projects that's in Planner. With Outlook, it's available in new Outlook and web versions. In your My Day, in this pane, if you mark the task to say, I want to focus on it today, it will show up in the panel in Outlook. And you can also add your planner calendar in Outlook as well. Okay, so let's go into the demo. I am on the Microsoft 365 homepage, and to get to Planner, you may not have it in your left navigation. You want to just click on Apps, and you can scroll through here. If you still don't see it, you can click on All Apps, and this may be sorted for you in alphabetical order, and you choose it. You can easily drag this so it appears in your left navigation for easy access. Once you get into Planner, there's a lot of things you're going to do, and I'm going to just kind of walk you through. If you were creating a new plan, you have a lot of templates to choose from. So if you choose one of these templates, it's automatically going to come with buckets and labels, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you can choose any of these, or you can start from scratch. I'm going to just click on the simple plan. When you come here, you're going to give your project a name. You have the option to add it to any existing teams, planning sites. Notice that you have the option to make it public. If it's public, that means everyone in your organization or in your tenant would have access. Or you can mark it as private. When it's private, it's only going to be available to the people that you share it with. So it's really important that you identify, the privacy level of your project. So I'm not going to click on it, but that's how you create. Now, I created a YouTube content tracking. And when I used that simple plan, it automatically had, some buckets here, which I've already renamed some of them. Some of them had in progress. Notice that this one said backlog. I can easily come in here and rename it because I want this to be ideas, right? So you can easily rename them. Now, let me just talk about what's here. When you see these three horizontal lines, you can actually just condense your left navigation. You can, we'll talk about assign to me a little later. If you have a lot of projects that you are assigned to, you can actually pin your favorites. And again, this is just showing you all projects that you have tasked and have access to. So let's talk about what's here. So you have a grid view. Grid view is just going to allow you to look at your task in a list view. The board is the most popular view because it's actually showing you the different buckets, or we'll talk about, the filtering components in a second. It comes with charts. So you can really monitor, the progress of your project, what's urgent, how many items are, has a media status, and it's letting you know based on the different buckets that you have created. So really nice. The schedule view is just really showing this in a calendar view. You can look at this on a week view basis if you want, or even monthly. Now, in the show more options, there's a lot more things that you can do here. You can pin, you can copy a plan, you can export your plan to Excel, which, if you want to do more analytics with it, because, notice that our charts was very simple. Copy link to a plan, and I want you to see plan settings. Now, when you're looking at your settings for your project, if you want to put, I call them skins, add a skin onto your project, you can do so. I'll just go ahead and add one on there. If you want to review, your group and look at your access here, what's really important, I want you to know, is think about how you want people to receive notifications. For an example, send an email to a group when a task is assigned or completed. That's just informing your team of what's going on. Only the planner owner has access to be able to assign, if for the whole entire team. Some users may not want this. So these options down here will allow them to choose, but it's really important that you take a look and adjust those settings there. The other thing that I want to mention that's up under the more options is you can add your plan to Outlook calendar. So just easy access while you in Outlook. The other thing across the top that you need to think about if you are the owner of planner for this particular project is assign your members. So remember, we said this was a private, not public. And you know what? I forgot to add Nestor. Let's add Nestor to this project. And so you can add a person and remove a person at any given time. Talk about filters. So once you start to, create a lot of lot of tasks, you can start looking at this and filter on the items as well as buckets. Now, we talked about what is a bucket. Let me go back to the board view. Under the board view, buckets are chunks of ideas or chunks of tasks grouped together. So we have ideas here, research. We can look at it by assigned to. We can easily monitor that. And by due date, labels. When you think of labels, notice here we see the pink and green. This is just very similar in Outlook, like categories. And you can rename them, because what does that pink really mean? Does this mean that it's delayed? Just another set of category? And you can easily make those changes to whatever makes sense to you. And then you can look at things based on priority. So let's go back to buckets, because that's the most common one. You can also add another bucket. So let's say that I need a bucket for social media posts. And I can easily now have, all the buckets that I need, because you can move these around, right? So if I go in order, this is the order of how we get things done from, creating content for YouTube. How do you create a task? When you add a task, you're just going to give it a name. And here's an idea for loop video. And I add that task. I now can come in here and open it. Let's open it. We can set a due date. Say I want this done by next Friday. I want to assign it to, Adele, and Nestor is going to be responsible for this one. And what if I need to add more information? I can add labels to it. We don't want to mark that as delayed. I'm not coming right out of the gate. You can assign it to what bucket. As we haven't started yet, but definitely once you are in progress, you can change the priority. What is the start date? Well, we started this, we're going to start this tomorrow. And again, we want this due by the following Friday. So you can add notes. This is what I like about Planner. So there's multiple steps in an idea. We may want to have a brainstorming session. We need to get approval from our leader, and whatever else we may have. You can track that right here. What if you received an attachment? It could be an email or a document. You can add it here. And what I like and how I use this is I like to, whatever resources that I'm referring to, I like to input that link into this area. So everything that I need is right here. So let's say that now we, started this project, we completed the brainstorming, and we, got our approval. Well, it's going to go to the next stage. Notice how I just dragged that task right into the next stage. We take care of whatever we need to do. Again, once we got all the research that we need, we can now drag it over to video filming. Now, this is what's different from the to-do app. You cannot do that, right? You cannot drag those items, as you watch and monitor the progress of your project. Whatever is assigned to me, I am Adele. Whatever is assigned to me, I see all the projects here. Notice I have a project called budget planning. It's listed here as well. So on the cards on here, you will see the actual project name and the due date. So now you're able to kind of keep track of yourself on what you need to do based on all the multiple projects that you have, and notice that you have access to look at these in based on these different settings as well. So couple of quick things I just wanted to show you is in the to-do, remember that in the to-do, I now see anything that is assigned to me under this option. If you take some notes and add more steps, that it would also sync seamlessly in the planner as well. So that's nice. You can decide if you want this on my day. This is again that Outlook and to do integration. If I mark, I want to focus on this today, there it is, right? And it will show up in Outlook. Go back to Planner. So that's all I wanted to show you today. Like I said, it is, you can do a little bit more within. I just wanted to kind of give you an overview to get you started using Planner and start thinking about, how to use it. And again, I like it so when, you have multiple tasks for a particular project that you can keep track what stage, what phase that it is in. Again, you can follow me, stay connected. You can follow me on, all the social media platforms. I do have a lot of videos on YouTube. If you are more so of a reader, feel free to visit my website, Track Creation for E, and there's a vault that's also it contains a lot of these how-tos as well.
Teresa, that's fantastic. A couple of things that I thought I'd like to add and just get your take on,
Okay.
if that's okay. So I think one of the important things for my clients, or that I try and emphasize for my clients, is that from the get-go, Microsoft's Business Suite was designed to be integrated one way or another. And back
Right.
in the day, if you remember, we had Microsoft 365 groups.
Right.
Now, we don't have time to get into Microsoft 365 groups, but it's kind of the underlying concept behind a lot of the integrated environments that we see with Microsoft today. And the reason I bring that up is that when you start, as you pointed out, when you start a planner, you have the choice, but very often it's not very, very obvious to people. You have the choice of adding a planner to a team that already exists. That's the one. Yep, perfect. So if you wanted to start a new plan, you'll get that little pop-up that says add a plan to an existing group or start a new planner. And I think it's really important. Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost hidden there. Yeah. Add to existing group, or start a new plan. And it's really important, I think, that people understand that when you start a new planner, what's happening is very similar to an Outlook group or to
Yes.
a team. Microsoft
Yes.
365 is spinning up a whole series of resources in the background that are available to you just because you started a planner. The same thing if you go to Microsoft Outlook and start a group in Microsoft Outlook. Same thing in Yammer, and definitely the same thing in Teams. You start a brand new team, and what happens is you get a whole series of resources being spun up in the background. So I think that was one
The
point I wanted to
the thing
make.
the one thing that I would add before you create a planner, you need to sit down and plan it out on paper and have that discussion before you go create it. Everything that you just talked about, you should kind of have. I'm a checklist person, and I would recommend they had a checklist. Sit down with them and say who should have access. Is this public or private? Is this going to be part of an existing group? Right? You want to, what buckets do you want? Right? So all those questions need to be asked before you even create it.
I think that's really important because one of the things that you and I know is that when you add a planner to a team, as you explained earlier, it means that the whole team
Right.
technically have access to the planner.
Right.
And there's something that people may not realize, which is when you choose, for whatever reason, to remove somebody from your planner, you are also removing them from the team.
Oh, good point. Good point. I always
Because
forget
it's
about that
not
until it
me
happens.
too.
Good point.
Absolutely, because I had a
Yeah.
client about a couple weeks ago, and she said to me, "Well, listen, I need to move, you know, names changed to protect the innocent. I need to move David, poor old David,
Mm-hmm.
out of this planner." And I said, "Well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine, but please do realize he is an integral part of your team.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a result, when you remove David from the planner, what you're basically doing is you're removing him from the entire team and all the other resources.
Mm.
So that was
Microsoft should
one
really
aspect
they need that
to
feedback
highlight that.
because yeah, they need that feedback because there's many times I want him part of the team for all this other stuff over here, but not necessarily. At one point we thought it was good for him to have access. At this point, no. And
Yeah,
you should be able to hide him
you need to be
or
able to think
remove
about
him
that in different
just
ways.
from Planner
But
versus
because
the
planner is
entire
one of the
group.
foundational, and yes, that's exactly correct. And
So it's going to
which
show you
everybody's in
everybody
that
that's in
group.
that group.
And I think that whole piece about Microsoft Outlook, the assumption that's made with most people is that Outlook is email. And I try and ensure that they understand
Not
that what we're
anymore.
looking at, that Outlook has always had three components. It's had the communications part, which was email. It's had the time management part, which was about calendar. That's Outlook calendar. And it has the people part. And so where Planner fits in is that it crosses those boundaries between
Hmm.
the,
And
in fact,
if you
yeah,
remember some years back, it might even been 5, 6 years back. If you remember, Outlook was a silo. Planner was its own app. The To Do was its own app, and users, was really frustrated. Like, why I have to go and keep, app hop. There I go again, app hop
hmm
and versus they should integrate seamlessly, and I think Microsoft has done a good job to make that happen. And for people who are used to using Outlook just for emails, that that's just not the way we work today.
it's a really kind of important way of understanding the environment that we're in, which is that they're integrated for a reason. They're
Hmm.
not, wasn't thrown together by accident. I think that's probably true for a lot of suppliers, whether it's Cisco WebEx or Google Workspace, Microsoft 365. One of our, I'd like to call him good friends, and I guess Dr. Nitin Paranjapi in India.
Yeah.
He is fantastic. So a big shout to
Yeah.
Doc Nitin. And he always says that it's important to understand that whenever you come up against a question or an issue, that the suppliers have often come up against those. They've usually come up against those issues before. So there's very often
Hmm.
a reason to look behind it and find out where is the solution for that issue. Is that solution in a contextual menu, something we need to talk about one of these months? Because
Right.
with
Right.
the moment you right click on something, you get a contextual menu, not just in
Right.
Microsoft, even though Microsoft are really hot at it, but in lots of other areas too. So you're looking at your planner, and if you were to right click on one of those task panels, you'd get a menu. You get a
Right.
contextual menu that tells you what you can do with the place that on which you've right clicked. So like you were just moving those panels around from one place to another, that was one thing that you can do. You can move the panel. You can also move the entire bucket or the entire column if you like. Um, but when you right click on
No,
something, you'll see some stuff that you wouldn't otherwise see.
the one thing that I like that what Microsoft did is this form here looks very similar to what we looked at last week with the To Do app, right?
Easily.
I've been able to have that, that checklist in there.
Absolutely.
This is one of my favorite parts of the To Do, and with Planner is able to have the overall task and all the individual items, there, and it tracks it for you, right? So as you go through, it's tracking, and you can see visually that I only got 2 tasks completed. This is what's remaining, and 2 is already done. I just
Yes.
think that is really nice, and it gives you a snapshot of when it's due. So this is why this is very popular. I just wanted to mention, just in case anybody else listening, I did this as a YouTube content tracking. Think about, so many people are doing social media posts, right? And you're thinking of one day out of each week, you want to just generate your ideas. Here's the place to put that, right? And then if you have to, whatever workflow is for you to get to the completed state, right?
Yep.
Set it up. But I will recommend, don't do too many buckets. 5
Yeah,
is about
I
enough,
agree. It's about enough.
right? And that's where these categories, or labels, they call it labels in Planner, but this is where you use these labels, to help you, break it down another layer if you need to.
Teresa, what are you thinking that we could be that we could be building on in the next few weeks? Because I know you always have a lot of ideas.
I keep saying loop is the next thing, but I really need to. I have to really spend time and use it, because I like to share things from a user perspective, not just what Microsoft want us to know. And I need to get my hands on and use it before we can really talk about loop. So not sure yet. Microsoft Designer is something I've been talking a lot about. So maybe we do that.
I've learned something every
I think
single
I need to
time.
create a eBusiness Connect planner bucket.
I like the
For
idea
all, because we always have ideas, right? We need to create a planner.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's a good point to probably bring up. Is I think at one point you was able to share your planner externally. Here recently, I don't think you can do that anymore. I know that it was like that for To Do app as well.
No, I think that's more difficult than it used to be, which is, it's a bit of a shame, but that's okay. I get it. I think the important thing for me is number one, just to, as you can hopefully see on the screen right now, just to thank you for joining us again in the way that you do, between Pittsburgh and London, between eBusiness Connect and Track Creations 4E, as folks can see on the screen there. We are not quite covering the globe, but we're getting close. So huge thanks, as always, to our now resident rather than guest. I think resident Teresa B. Cyrus is in the house.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure having you with us. And all I can say is, as Teresa always loves to say, we've done our bit. Go do your magic.
Go work your magic.